rolling.
All right.
How are you? Like you survived the holidays.
Barely.
Welcome everyone to the Project X podcast. I am Alan Smith, along with
I am Big Dave.
and we survived the holidays. We both survived Whamageddon 2019.
Yes, I won.
And even though Dave tried to take me out on the podcast, I still made it through, surprisingly. And so, yeah, we're survivors, and we hope all you guys had a happy holidays. Everything including when this drops, it'll be after New Year's. So we'll be
Welcome to the 20s.
I know we'll be in 2020, and who thought? You know, that's something I have said this so many times in the last year, especially. You know, Dave and I are both born in the mid 70s.
Early
mid 70s. We were in the early mid 70s, you know.
Yeah.
And when we were growing up, all of Gen X, we were growing up. There was that question of what's the year 2000 going to be like? You know, what's going to happen in the year 2000?
I wanted my flying car.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been watching the Jetsons.
Exactly. You know, and there was also that, you know, I remember in grade school us sitting and being like, how old are you going to be in the year 2000? You know, blah, 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 you know, type stuff. And I was 25, turned 26 shortly thereafter. So, you know, it's like, all right, you know, that's where we are. That was 20 years ago.
See, when I think 20 years ago, I'm still thinking like the 80s.
Yeah, see, it's not, though. So the 80s are almost 40 years ago. It's going to be, well, actually, as this is released, 1980 will be 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And honestly, it doesn't bother me a whole lot.
I'm not going to lie, that hurts a little bit.
I don't have the affection for the 80s that so many of our generation does. And it was a fun time.
Yeah, it was.
It's gone. Let's leave it back there. You know, it's kind of this. But I'm like that with the '90s and the aughts and everything. I'm like, no, it was a fun time.
You're always pushing forward.
Exactly. You know, I
tend to be a little bit more nostalgic than.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I get into my nostalgia, you know, on certain things.
Oh yeah.
But I look at it as that was a time in my life, and now it's gone, and we're on to something else. You know, that's kind of where we are.
Since we're going back to the 20s, I kind of hope they bring back, you know, old-fashioned stuff comes back around eventually. I want to see the flapper dresses come back. I do.
Yeah, okay. So we're going to go back 100 years rather than 20.
You know, if we're going to do this, let's do it the right way and bring back the Gilded Times.
That was something that with that every 20 year, you know, whatever, you know, in the aughts or the early 2000s, whatever we're calling, you know, from 2000 to 2009, 10 years ago, over 10 years, 20 years ago, you know, 20 to 10 years, depending, you know.
Yeah.
It's everything 80s, just 80s. Okay. So now we're like 20 years beyond that, and it's like,
well, the 80s are kind of coming back, though.
Unfortunately, I know, but that's the whole thing. Is it's you know why that's happening?
And it's more so than it was.
You know why it's happening?
Go ahead, enlighten me.
Because the 20s, the early 2000s were just a rehash of the 80s. So now the 2020s are going to be a rehash of the 2000s, which was a rehash of the 80s. So it's
honestly, I think they're going to do it better this time around. I think it's going to be.
Look, I'm sorry. We're never going to do the 80s better than we did the 80s, okay?
No.
But for all of its
I'm not
faults,
disagreeing with you.
You know, we were talking about this earlier. We were listening to, you know, with our Christmas episode. All of you guys that listened to it, you know, I played out with one of my favorite Weird Al songs at the end, you know, Christmas at Ground Zero.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this earlier today of, you know, it was on the album Polka Party, which I think came out in 85 or 86, somewhere around it, in the mid-80s.
Somewhere in there.
You know, so Dave, you know, the thing about it is that is such a time capsule of that era, because we were still living under this
the fear of the
nuclear annihilation. Yeah. I mean, because, you know, with the Cold War and
Cold
everything.
War. The Cold War was still heavy.
Very heavy, you know, and it wasn't until, you know, with 89, that was when the wall came down.
Yeah.
And that essentially started the fall.
The domino effect.
Yeah. And, you know, and by you know, 90, what was it? It was Christmas of 92 whenever Boris Yeltsin took over Russia.
Yeah.
Gorbachev stepped down. The Communist Party was completely out of power.
Well, it was basically a small coup.
Yeah, but it was one of those things that happened,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's only one superpower in the world again now.
Yeah.
And it's us, and we had this decade-ish of what do we do now? And I've heard people talk about, especially the end of the 90s, when you start looking at a lot of the films that came out in 99, like Fight Club or American Beauty or different stuff, like where it's one of those things you look at, it's like, yeah, we spent 40 years fighting this quote unquote evil empire, as Reagan put it, and then for a decade we're just kind of sitting back going, okay, what do we do now? And then all of a sudden we had all this malaise of like, wow, we got a great economy and there's no imminent threat, and what do? We're not working towards anything any longer, and so you have
it all started falling apart.
Yeah, and then of course a couple of years later we had 9/11, and the whole world changed again. But anyway, that's not even our topic for today. We're just riffing at this point.
You wouldn't even tell me what
I
the
haven't even
topic
told
was.
Dave what our topic is, and it's something that we have
left me in the dark again.
It's something we have spoken about before. Hey, we should do this at some point.
Oh boy, here we go.
And we just never got around to it, and today we're going to do it.
Okay.
We're going to talk about jobs that we had, dead end or otherwise.
Oh no, here we go.
I was always changing jobs for the longest time.
You still changing jobs.
I know, but it's like, but back then I was really like, I would be at a place for 2 or 3 months and I was gone. I did have a couple of jobs where I lasted a couple of years and kind of became synonymous with those places, and then
and then moved along.
To something else, and then
video store.
It never failed that when I left, it was
video
like
store.
Yeah, I know. Well, we'll talk about. I'm going to talk about the video store. Believe me. And it's one of those things that, like, I left, and then later I'm like, man, I probably should have stayed at that job. The record store comes to mind on that.
Oh
one.
Yeah. Considering it's still there,
I know,
it's
which
still
is amazing,
very active,
which is amazing, and they've done what most of those places have done, which is move into vinyl, and and that kind of stuff.
Which is sad because the one on my side of town closed down.
They're all gone except for. And I said I worked for CD Warehouse here in Nashville, and at one point when I started working there. I guess we'll go ahead and get into this.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
I worked at CD Warehouse from June-ish of 1999.
Yeah.
And then I was there until about February of 2000, and I got stupid and left there and went to another job that we'll talk about later, and was only there a few months before I got fired. And
went back to CD Warehouse.
I wound up going back to CD Warehouse a couple months after that, and I was there until June-ish of 2001. So yeah, I was at CD Warehouse. Well, here's that run. I was there about 2 years, roughly. I mean, give or take a few months, and and then I left for 5 years, and then I picked up a part-time gig there about in 2006. Anyway, and I say that because I want to talk about the difference. When I came to work for them in 99, that was a license to print money.
Oh yeah,
buying and selling CDs. And I mean, because we did used. That was the big thing with that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a license to print money, and it was. I'm not going to get into all of the, because I don't want to open any cans of worms of talking about policies or any of that kind of stuff, but it was one of those things where if you know capitalism at all, it's buy low and sell high, and we did that quite a bit.
I won't make any comments.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where we'll talk about some of the music that was like, because this was when Britney Spears' first album was out. Limp Bizkit's Significant Other was big at the time. Devil Without a Cause, Kid Rock was big.
Yeah.
All that team, NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, and Christina Aguilera's first album was out at that time.
Yeah.
And it was funny that, like, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff that came out, and I'm blanking on some of the really big stuff at the time, but that was one of those type of albums, of those CDs, we were getting like top dollar on those, and I mean it was a license to print money.
Yeah,
I mean I'm talking on the high end we were making 100% profit.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, on the low end, we were making 100% profit. On the high end, we were making about 400% profit on these things.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I actually brought CDs in there at one point when you weren't working there to sell them back, and he offered me so little for them that I turned around and took my stuff home with me.
We used to see that all the time,
Yeah.
This was also right at the time that DVDs hit.
Yeah.
And so
they started doing those.
And we started doing those, and that became an even bigger, an even bigger. And we also remember DVDs at the time, like just a regular DVD that you would go and pick up were like $25, $30.
Yeah.
And
you could go in there and get them for $12, $13 a pop.
It depends. Again, on the low end stuff is probably in there, but you were still you could get on up like on some like brand new stuff that came out. Like, I'll tell you,
like a week ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I want to tell so many stories, and I probably should, but I don't want. Even though it's been 20 years, it's still kind of one of those.
Yeah, don't do it.
Don't
do it because we may try to get them as a sponsor at some point.
But
I know we talked bad about you on this.
Well, no, I'm not even going to talk bad about them. It's just we had customers that.
Oh no! You can tell. You had Media Play across the parking lot.
Media Play was literally in the same center.
Yeah, it was.
It was like we were on one end of
the parking lot.
We were on one end of that center, and they were on the very opposite end of it.
I can almost guarantee you there were customers that went down to Media Play and absconded with several movies and walked across
right straight to us.
Yeah,
and sold them
because
we had,
and they made 100% profit.
And we had plausible deniability on everything.
Oh, yeah.
Now.
Yeah, because they're selling you movies that are still in the shrink wrap.
Yeah. There were times that people brought stuff in that was like, dude, you didn't even bother to take the stickers off of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. You bring them in, not only are they still in like the shrink wrap.
Yeah,
they still have
the
like
security.
They have
cage.
The Kmart sticker on them, and they're still in the plastic security. Like,
yeah.
I'm not even talking about the ones that like you had to use a key to get off of, but the ones you had to like cut off.
Yeah.
It's like they're still in all this stuff, and you're bringing in a whole laundry basket full of this stuff.
Oh yeah,
I know where you got it from. I can't take it this way.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not gonna buy it from me? I can't take it this way.
Yeah.
Was the
shorthand for go out to your car and take the stickers and the stuff off of it. Yeah.
Exactly. It was that type of stuff. Now, on the flip side of that, we also took ID of everybody that came in. So if there was a question, like, well, this is the person that came in and sold them to us.
Yeah.
It's like so many other things.
It's a gray area.
It is. It's, and every once in a while, we would hear from the police.
Yeah.
Or every once in a while we get a call from an insurance company.
Yeah.
You want to know how much they were basically trying to get a feel of how much it would cost to replace like CDs, and DVDs, because at the time, because they were so expensive and so popular. You could use
them as collateral on a bank loan.
Yeah, but it was also one of those things if someone's house got broken into and their entire, CD collection got stolen. Well, all of a sudden it's like, well, you're looking at hundreds or thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Depending on how many they had to replace. And so sometimes the insurance companies were like, well, could we replace these with used ones instead? And so it doesn't cost us, we can use that as our template for how much we'll give back,
Yeah.
And it was, but no, that job was great because it was one of those things that it wasn't a big store.
No, it wasn't. It was crowded.
It was always crowded. We always had customers. Always had people coming in selling stuff. Yep. And so we had access to everything musically. And then with movies, with the DVDs, when that stuff started coming in, that was a big thing also of video
games.
And we did some, actually, because this was in the PS1. This
Yeah.
is before PS2 came out. It was in the PS1 and
Sega. There was some Sega. You guys.
we
carried
had some
Sega.
Dreamcast because Dreamcast had just come
Yeah.
out, and we would do some N64 stuff. We didn't get as much of that at the time.
You did some Sega Genesis stuff because
We may have. I don't
bought
know.
some at one point.
But the big thing was the PlayStation, the PS1 games, and
yeah,
I know because that's where I got my copy of Twisted Metal 3 was when it came through. And I bought it.
such
It's just
a
like,
good
yeah.
video game. Always the ice cream truck.
Oh, absolutely,
Always
absolutely.
the ice cream truck.
So, but yeah, it was one of those things that with all that, it was such a different time in media for that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And it was, like I said, we had access to all this music, and not only that, we had access to get music.
Yeah.
Because we did do we would do new releases that came, when they came, we sold new as well.
Yeah.
And so with that, we had distributors that we could get stuff that maybe imports
Yeah.
that you couldn't get other places,
No,
know.
you
And
got some stuff for me that.
yeah, I mean, it was some really cool, like, oh wow, and so while I was and in the 2 years that I worked there,
Yeah.
I had a pretty decent CD collection to begin with.
Oh, both yours and my CD collections grew
I know,
exponentially
but
because I was living vicariously through your job.
By the time that I left that place, I had 400 plus CDs.
Yeah.
Now, the thing with that is that I had 400 plus CDs. There's probably 30 of them that I listened to on the regular, and maybe 50 of them that I listened to on the regular, and about 15 or 20 of them
Yeah.
I listened to a lot.
Yeah.
And the rest of them just kind of sat there. And after a few years, it was one of those things I would sit there and look at them like, why do I have all this stuff? Because I don't, there was a,
See, you succumbed and started doing all digital.
well, it
started-
was that too. Well, when I got my first iPod, that had,
Yeah.
I legitimately, but I did a purge prior to
Yeah.
that, where I kind of went through and was like, do I have this CD because I like it or because I think I should have it?
That's not a wrong answer on either one of those.
Well, but the thing is that I really kind of went through and I was like, well, if you listen to our last episode, you can tell, some with our stuff that we don't really, but it was one of those things where like I really
Yeah.
did ask myself, do I have a copy of Bitches Brew because I like Miles Davis, or do I have it because I think I should own it?
dude, you had that and you got rid of it?
And I did.
I would have taken that off your hands.
Well,
I
you
love
should have
Miles
been
Davis.
almost 20 years ago.
I was
it's
around
like-
20 years ago.
Yeah, you were.
Why weren't you?
But it was one of those things where it was like I really did go through with a lot of that stuff of like, why do I own whatever? Do I really like the music, or do I feel like I should own this because, oh, this is art and I must own this, type stuff.
Dude.
And so I did this big purge where I went from 400 plus down to 250-ish, 300, somewhere maybe,
You streamlined.
yeah, something like that. And then when I got my first iPod, I was like, okay, I'm ripping every bit of this into my iTunes.
Yep, that's what I did.
And I did. I ripped everything that I had into iTunes. And then I sold all my CDs. All of them. Except for just a
No.
couple, like a few that I still have a couple of CDs that I've hung on to over the years because of sentimental. Of like,
See,
okay,
I still have my CD. I still have my cassette tapes.
I don't. Yeah, see, I don't.
I still have my
I do
vinyl,
have. I don't.
you know,
I don't have a CD player in my house anywhere. So I don't. There's no
Dude,
use in having CDs.
I've got a 500 disc carousel
Yeah.
in my garage.
Oh, I had one of those at one point,
waiting to
yeah.
be hooked back up at some point.
What was fun about having that 500 disc carousel was just throwing in random stuff and hitting shuffle.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Because again, I would load up those like 30 CDs that I really loved, or
Yeah.
whatever, those 30 albums, and then just hit shuffle. I'm like, look, there's not going to be a song on here that I don't know, that I don't like,
Yeah,
So,
and you got music for days.
And but yeah, dude, I mean, and that was kind of the. Actually, let me rephrase that. I didn't. Yeah, I know I hit that.
Oh, okay. I was wondering what that was.
I didn't buy my first iPod prior to ripping all those CDs. I ripped all those CDs into iTunes and then sold them. and bought my iPod so I could.
Well,
and that was the first iPod I bought was whenever they came out with the 60 gig because that was the biggest one that they had.
Well, see, I didn't even buy an iPod until
Yeah.
they came out with the 80 gig.
Oh yeah, see that's
When I was at Western.
well, this was. I didn't buy it when it first came out. It was several years later.
And I used school loan money to buy it.
It makes sense. That is a necessity for surviving school.
And
yeah.
I justified it in the fact that you could also use it for an external hard drive,
Mm-hmm.
which not a whole lot of people knew about. So I petitioned it off and had, like, I think it was like 50 or 60 gigs. It was music and everything else. And then I had the extra, as an external hard drive
Mm-hmm.
that I could save, work on. And people, I'd plug it into a computer. It's like, oh, you can't listen to that.
Well,
over
yeah,
there.
yeah.
I was
It's
like,
no, yeah, you can.
I was like, yeah, that's not a problem. I know what I'm doing. Go ahead.
Right. So anyway, that was the first 2 years of CD Warehouse. So it was one of those things that when I left, things had slowed down some.
Yeah.
But it was still a boom. Not quite the boom that it had been 2 years prior, but it was still a boom.
Yeah.
Okay. So you fast forward 5 years, and I walked in there, and a friend of ours was running the place at the time, John Burke.
Oh,
John
yeah.
Burke, and who was there forever.
Shout out to John.
I know, dude. John was there he was 17 years old when he first started there. He was just a kid, and I watched him. He would bring his guitar in, and I watched him get really.
Did he have like a powder blue Strat or something?
No, he had a Les Paul Custom that he had for years and years, and it was like a early '80s model or something like that.
I must be thinking of somebody else.
So it was he would bring that guitar in, and I would sit there and watch him just play along with music all day. And he was good. It was one of those things. He was good when he came in. By the time that I left, he was great.
The first time or the second time?
Unless it's the second time. It was
Okay.
when he started working there.
Yeah.
And then it's one of those things he went on and played in a band, that did really well. And years later, I went and saw one of their gigs, and I was just like, holy crap, that guy's good. Because it's like, especially growing up here in Nashville, you see people who are good, and then you see people who are like excellent.
See, here's the thing about living in Nashville is that everybody's good.
Everybody's good.
Whether you play guitar or not, you know how to tune one.
Exactly.
And everybody knows 3 chords in this town.
Right.
Everybody.
Right.
Which absolutely drives one of my coworkers crazy because he bought a guitar and was trying to learn it, and he was
Right.
just sitting in his office. And he was so mad because everybody that came in would pick it up and start strumming something on it.
Exactly.
And he couldn't figure out how to play
Exactly. It's like, well, yeah, that's kind of living
So,
in Nashville.
But
So-
there's a bar in Nashville that everybody plays guitar. That's not
Right.
that's not a rumor. It's not a
no,
joke.
it's not.
E-
Everyone plays
the,
guitar.
Even the drummers in this town play guitar. Even
It's true.
Even I
It's
know
true.
3 chords and can get through 2 or 3 songs.
Right. So anyway, when I came back, like I said, this was 5 years later. I came walking in. I had a different job,
Yeah.
And John was like, "Hey man, are you interested in picking up some part-time work?" I'm like, "All right, cool. Let's do this." And so I wound up working there for another year,
Yeah.
just part-time, nights and weekends, a lot of that stuff. And my goodness, had things changed in 5 years.
Really?
Oh man,
How so?
Well, this was iTunes had taken over.
Yeah.
But that was your, people, they weren't buying CDs as much. We weren't selling them for as much. We weren't buying them for anywhere near what we were prior. And that was still saying,
Yeah.
And the other thing that I thought was really funny is that you see trends in music. And I'll bring up 2 particular albums that when, with our pricing structure and how much we paid and how much we actually sold CDs for when I had left in 2001, there was stuff that had come out in the mid 90s that we almost couldn't give away any longer, to where we even wouldn't even buy it because
Mudvayne.
no, mid 90s. And I'll tell you 2 CDs that straight up were
Sure.
One of them was Sheryl Crow's Tuesday Night Music Club,
Which-
because it's a good. I'm not saying anything about the
No,
quality
that's a-
of the album. I'm
that's
just
a
saying
good album.
It was something that everybody owned, and then eventually people started getting rid. Blah blah blah, and so
That was actually her best album
Yeah.
because a whole
Her
bunch of other people wrote it
second
for
one
her.
was okay as well, but it was one of those things where we saw a lot of those come through to the point to where at some point we were like, we're not even buying these anymore because we just have so many of them
Yeah.
sitting in the back, type stuff. And another one was Green Day's Dookie. that it was a ton of people had them.
Yeah.
You know, and so people would buy it. You know, it was just we couldn't get rid of them. You know.
Yeah.
What was funny is that 5 years later, there wasn't a copy of either of those in the store. And when they would come in, we were buying them for more than we were some of the newer stuff, and we could turn around and resell them without any problems. I mean, that's just two examples of stuff that we used, you know.
Everything's cyclical.
It is, you know, and there were other, like, Blues Travelers 4 was one of those albums.
I'm not a
Blues
Travelers fan.
But that was another one of those albums that everybody was trying to get rid of in the late 90s, early 2000s, that all of a sudden in the mid 2000s, everybody's like, yeah, I kind of want that. And there weren't any copies of it around. I've seen that with movies, like with DVDs, stuff that was really popular back, you know, 99, 2000, 2001, you know, the early aughts, you know, you can't find them now. They're not on Blu, and they were never put on Blu-ray.
Yep.
And used to, you could walk into any place and they'd have 3 or 4 copies of it, and now you can't find them because the people
pick them up for a song.
The people who own them aren't getting rid of it. You know, they have them because now they like it, or they've gotten rid of them years ago. They're not making any more new copies of them, and so the ones that are out there. And that was when I was putting together my collection of like all those teen movies that I have. You know, I had to like search for some stuff of like, I can't believe I can't find a copy. I used to be walk in any place and you could find these things. Yeah. And then when I did find them, they were expensive because
you couldn't find
them anywhere, you know? And so anyway, I know I've talked for like 20 minutes about this, but that job, I loved that job. That was probably the best job I've ever had, because it was on any given day, I could walk in and just say, I want to listen to X.
And throw
or
it.
maybe X, but or
dude,
you know,
I saw them in concert. Saw the original lineup in concert.
But you know, insert band name here, and throw it in and listen to it. You know, discovered some cool music that way.
I can't believe I've never worked in a record store. You would think that would be one of the things that I would have done, but
well, I tell you, it's something that now, with the way vinyl has come back, I think it would be fun to work in one again.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just dealing with that kind of stuff.
Especially if you could work at a place that's not going to be pretentious. And,
right.
And,
now,
and there's some great record stores out there, but there's some I don't like going into because the way that the staff...
It's kind of like music stores.
It's the old school music store.
Right.
Where you're judged on what you're buying. It's totally... what was the John Cusack...
High Fidelity.
Oh, yeah. It's
absolutely.
So high fidelity.
Well, that's that whole... See, okay, that's the thing. When that movie came out, I was working at CD Warehouse.
Oh, yeah.
And
you were totally Jack Black.
No, I was not. No, because you got to remember who else was working with me at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
No, you're right.
He got that a lot afterwards of... I'm not saying it because I love you, bud. But it's...
Shout out.
Yeah.
You know who you are.
But it was one of those things. He got that a lot afterwards. Like, hey, have you seen that movie High Fidelity? Because you remind me of that dude, you know?
Yeah. And I was probably one of them that said it. Sorry, dude.
But it was funny because, like, all of us...
Sorry, not sorry?
Yeah. All of us went to the movie together.
Oh, yeah.
That worked there. It was me and him and little Andrew and John Burke, you know, and we all went. Yeah. And it was like, okay, cool. And it was one of those things, as we were watching it, we're like... laughing and looking at each other like, yeah, exactly. That happened the other day. That was
yeah.
And that's such a good movie. I watched it.
I've got it on VHS.
Oh, really?
At the house.
Yeah.
I've got it on VHS. I got to find me another VCR.
Well, one of the things from that movie that stood out then and still now, you know, is that I think it's cute. Is it Cusack or is it Jack Black? I think it's Cusack says something that they're talking about. He's like, you know, it's not what you're like, it's what you like. Talking about how you know, and it was like, yeah, when you're young, that absolutely, you really do judge people not on what they themselves are. It's more of what bands do you like, what movies do you like, what, you know.
Well, I mean, that was always one of the first questions that we would ask when somebody new would show up in the group. It's like, okay, so what are you listening to right now?
Yeah, and you would kind of...
And depending on what was in their car cassette player at that moment would depend on whether you were going to talk to them or not.
And that's kind of with we don't have that as much these days, which I think is kind of good.
Yeah.
But at the same
Nowadays,
time,
if I ask somebody, what do you listen to? It's because I'm looking for something new.
yeah,
to
oh yeah,
listen to.
exactly. I'm the same way. Anyways, that place was great.
Yeah.
I have more, but go ahead. I'm going to let you go.
One of the first jobs I had living in Nashville is I worked, and this was in high school. I worked as the janitor for a tool and die place that also had an office space that they rented out above the offices of the tool and die shop.
All right.
And I was basically I would show up after everybody had left at like 6 o'clock or so. And I would basically work half a second shift, half a third shift job in this place by myself in one of the more sketchier neighborhoods.
Okay.
It was right off the Millersville exit.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it was right around the corner from that hotel.
I know what you're talking about.
Where
The Hee Haw Motel, or was it the...
It was a Hee Haw fireworks.
Right, yeah.
Right next to it, and then there was a motel. And that place was a known drug runner's den.
It probably still is.
There was one night Metro showed up and busted a car, and the car trunk was full of guns or something.
Nice, yeah.
I had somebody break in the building on me one night, had the alarm upstairs go off while I was in the building by myself as a high schooler. Had to go outside and wait for Metro to show up and sweep the... But I would go in and I'd have to clean all the offices, go upstairs, clean out the rental places, and then I would have to go back to the tool and die shop and clean the metal shavings out of all the machines.
No.
Yeah, I would have to clean out all the machines, all the CNC machines.
And you got those all in your fingers. And oh my goodness.
Yeah, and plus all the cutting oil.
Right.
All the cutting oil and all that. And you'd have to empty these machines out, and you would have to empty it out into a 55-gallon bucket or barrel. And I'd have to wheel that 55-gallon barrel out to the loading dock and tip it over onto the dumpster, and then dump this 55-gallon drum full of metal shavings over into this dumpster, empty it out, go back in, shut the door, and go back and start all over again.
Oh, man. No.
The only... and I would do this all night long. And then I would get home and do homework and then go to bed and get 2 or 3 hours sleep and get up and go to my last semester in high school, come home, get a couple hours sleep, and then go to work. And the best thing about it is there was a stereo out in the tool and die area. And they always had it set on, I forget what radio station it was. But I was like, screw that. And I would change it over to 103 KDF and turn that sucker up and just rock all night long. And that was the only thing that I really did that I shouldn't have done is when I still had the wagon, when I had the station wagon, and I had bought all that car stereo equipment. Me and 2 friends went down there one night after everybody had left and pulled the car into the building.
Turned it on?
No.
Cranked it?
No, pulled the car into the building so we could install it in an air-conditioned building and had all this nice light and all that. And then,
we've all worked on stuff on company time that it
wasn't even on company time. It was a day that it was a day that I had a day off. We used the building.
I had a job. It was at the same time that I had gone back to work for CD Warehouse part time. My regular day job, I was working for a car dealership. And
was that the...
Yes. And man,
oh my goodness.
I don't care. I'm going to tell the stories. I'll leave the names out, but that place was shady. Oh my God, it was shady. And it was one of those what do you call it? Oh, they specialized in what they called special financing. Okay.
We took the note.
No, they had people. They had companies. Loan people that would do financing. For them. But if you're not familiar with special financing basically means if you have a really, really bad credit, they could get you. They could get you a loan. But the interest rates were just horrible. 50%. Oh, they were terrible. And, a lot of times people that would come in there were so upside down in the vehicles they were already in because I'm going to, because I worked for a couple of car dealerships. This one, I was not a salesperson.
Yeah, tell us the dirty secrets of car salesmen.
This is not even a dirty secret much.
And this is not all car dealerships.
No, it's not.
This is mainly like major dealerships.
Right, but not a major dealer. It's a lot of like little places, that are kind of the toe.
My caveat is because I've got family in the used car,
right,
and they're honest and they actually try to take care of
their customers. Well, it's like anything else.
But,
you're going to go some places and it's not going to be, it's going to be shady. You're going to go other places and it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
One of the things that, and this is, it doesn't matter if it's a big car company or if it's an actual like dealership, one of your major whatever, or if it's, just a used car place, that you see on the side of the road near a mall, because that's where they all are.
Yeah.
Yep. Is that if you come in with a vehicle that with financing and with you talk about depreciation.
Oh,
okay?
Yeah.
By the time if you have a 5-year car loan,
yeah,
by the time the first year is up, you're going to be in over your head. Like, you're going to owe more than that vehicle's worth.
Yeah,
even if it's brand new, you're going to owe a lot more than that car is worth now.
If you buy a brand new car and drive it off the lot, the second it hits the street,
oh yeah,
you've already depreciated a quarter.
But here's the thing: is that, like, especially with used vehicles,
yeah,
they're depreciating a lot faster than anything else. So if you buy a 7-year-old vehicle and you sign up for a 5-year loan on that, you're going to be so far in, it's not even funny. Okay. And I'm not even talking about if the interest rate is, if you have a good interest rate or a low. I'm just talking about how much you're actually paying for that thing over that time period. You're so far in. So anyways, here's one of the things that the finance companies love to do. So you have a vehicle, it's worth $5,000. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the blue book, whatever, that they're, or what they're willing to give you. Yeah. Or what they're saying. Oh yeah, it's worth $5,000. But you owe $13,000 on it because of how your payoff is $13,000. So you're in $8,000 upside down of So what finances people love to do is like, okay, fine, we'll just roll that over into your new vehicle. So you go and you buy a new vehicle for $20,000. And they roll that $8,000 over on top of it. So a vehicle that you were only going to pay $20,000 for, now you're paying $28,000 for, plus whatever they're outrageous, because you have bad credit, and so you should just be thankful that we're going to give you a loan on this at 25% or whatever, or more, some 30% sometimes, depending on who you go through. So then, you do the math out of that. That's, once you get in the math on that, it's like, I'm not even going to get into it, because that's,
you're paying $60,000,
you're paying
$70,000
a whole lot more money.
That's not.
And the thing is what winds up happening is the people who wind up in those situations just keep rolling money over into the next one and the next one and the next one, to where when you get 2 or 3 or 4 vehicles down the line,
you could have had a Lamborghini.
You are paying a whole lot more money for something that there's just no. Anyways, so I worked for one of those special financing places. I was not a car dealership. I was not a car salesman here, thank God. But it was one of those things that I was out of the office quite a bit, because this was.
You were doing a lot of transportation stuff.
I was doing a lot of title work. Is basically what it comes down to. I had to go down to the state quite a bit to get stuff, moved around, and somebody, you have a loan that comes out of, for this company, it's gotta be notarized, and it's got to go down to where you have to go and have it transferred over to this company, and and there was a lot of people. We did a lot of people would come from Kentucky to do this because of a mailing that they did. I keep saying we. I hate to say we, because I don't want to admit that I was a part of it. But the dealership that I worked for did these mailings. Yeah. That, hey, we can get you bought, and a lot of people, and people would travel. I mean, they would travel from long distances. Yeah. Because they were in a promise of, I can get a better car. Yeah. And so,
was it one of these places that if you can drag it here, we can make a deal?
No,
tow it if you have to.
The was it push it, pull it, drag it in type stuff. No, it wasn't quite that, but it was more of the we can get you bought, or as we would say, we can get you bought. But it's one of those things that you're going to be paying a huge amount of interest over a long period of time. So I wound up going to a lot of county clerk's offices, both in Tennessee and Kentucky, and that kind of stuff. So I was out of office quite a bit.
Yeah.
The 2 years that I worked, 2.5 years that I worked there, I was kind of left alone to do
what I
needed to do. A lot of times I would roll in the morning, I'd grab a vehicle, grab paperwork that I needed to get done, take off, and I wouldn't be back until 2 in the afternoon or something. And then on top of that, I was also getting vehicles because they would go to the auctions, And so, in part of the getting everything taken care of, you had to send it through MARTA, which is the thing that we have here. So I wound up taking a lot of cars through MARTA.
It's basically the emissions test.
Yeah, I had to go
car.
do emissions test, and all that kind of stuff.
Which is why I moved to the county I did. No emissions test.
Well, it's one of those things that it was a great job because I started working there, and I was there a very short amount of time before I got my first iPod.
Yeah.
This is all around that same time, that I was talking about.
Yeah.
And so and that's when I first discovered podcasts.
Oh, okay.
During that time period, it's like, what's this podcast they keep talking about and blah, blah, blah. And really, really got into all of that.
Yeah.
And this is a couple of years even before I had, was on one and everything, but it was just like, oh, this is so cool, And anyway, so because I was in a vehicle all the time, and that was great. The problem came about a year and a half into working there because we were doing gangbusters. That place was just doing great.
Yeah.
And the guy that owned the place was a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
Okay. Had really nice motorcycles, really nice, on display in the showroom, and all this kind of stuff. And he had a Lamborghini, bought his wife a Lamborghini for Christmas type stuff. He was really doing well.
Yeah.
Right. And then all of a sudden we started having cash flow problems.
Oh, imagine that.
Out of nowhere. It was like, where are all the new vehicles from the auction? Well, they didn't go. And it was part of that was because they opened another dealership in Kentucky, and the two owners were spending all their time up there with that, and they were trying to get that up and going, and that kind of stuff. And so we kind of started falling behind,
Yeah.
And there was just something odd. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, And it was one of those things where they fired several salesmen out of the blue, and they brought in new people that were really shady, and we had really high turnover with finance people.
Yeah.
And it was just like, there's just something not right going on here. I can't figure out what's going on. I mean, it's the only way I know how to describe it is being on the Titanic and knowing that the ship's going down,
but you don't know why it's going down,
and you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's I walked into work one day after I'd been there 2.5 years and just didn't have a job any longer, and that place held on for a couple more months or whatever.
Yeah.
I will say that the last 4 or 5 months that I was there were times when I would come in, grab a vehicle, grab my, what little paperwork there was to take care of, type stuff, and I would leave, and I would ask myself, okay, if I come back and either the PD or the feds are here, do I keep driving? Or do I go in and say, I just work here, let me get my car and I'll leave?
Wow. Wow.
And that scenario actually played itself out when they were shutting the place down.
Really?
Yeah. And it was drug related, And
imagine that.
Yeah, I know. And
when you said motorcycles on display and bought a Lamborghini for Christmas, my immediate thought was, I wonder how much cocaine's going around.
Well, it wasn't that, but it was something. But it was one of those things where, again, I had plausible deniability. But everybody knew something was going on, and I don't know. I'll be honest. I haven't really talked to anybody from there in a while. I know that, like, the guys in the guys in the garage were awesome. I mean, like, awesome. I still run into them every once in a while. I'll run into somebody at work there, and it's still, I'm just like, yeah, dude, seriously. And they're always like, if you have any problems, just bring your vehicle up here. We'll look at it. Oh,
that's cool.
And it's good. It is. It's always good to know people who are mechanically inclined that way.
Yeah, exactly.
And that you can trust. On top of it all. But that was just it was a great job because I didn't have to deal with the general public.
Yeah.
I kind of knew what I was doing, and I could kind of, in a day, and so I could kind of plan out my day of, okay, I'm going to get here, I'm going to do this and this and this and this, I'm going to grab lunch, then I'm going to do this and this, and then I'm going to go home, and I'm going to get paid on Friday, and it paid every week, which was great. I loved that rather than every 2 week stuff,
Yeah. Try once a month.
I had that. I had health insurance. I had, it was awesome. I had no responsibility whatsoever, and I'll be honest, I goofed off on the clock so much on that, especially towards the end where it was just kind of God, whatever. But it was a great job. It was probably the second best job I ever had, and that kind of stuff. But it ended badly for everyone involved.
Yeah.
So anyway, so there's that. You get another one? 'Cause I still have one big one to get to.
Probably the best job that I ever had was when I was working as a master control operator for the PBS station at Western Kentucky when I was in school up there.
Okay.
So basically, if you've got a television station, you've got the production folks, which was the side that I was trying to get in on, but I get the feeling the professor that was over that side didn't like me at all, so I never really got a shot.
Right.
But I got in on the broadcast side, and basically there's always a person sitting at master control, making sure that everything's running as it should, the programs are going to air as they should, and if there's a problem, then they have to start. You're basically sitting there getting paid for if and when there's going to be a problem. You can then make the adjustments, and fix it. Well, when I was there, the station was still being broadcast off of 3/4 inch U-matic videotape.
Oh, wow. And this is in what year?
This was, I think I was there 2005 through 2007.
Oh, so yeah, I mean, wow. You would think everything would be digital by then.
You would think, but it wasn't. It was after I graduated. They went in, they revamped everything, and it was digital. It was all digitally run. So basically, you're sitting there on the hour. You're having to change the videotape for the next show that's going to happen. But at the same time, you've got 6 or 7 3/4 inch U-matic tape machines that are recording all the programs that you're going to be showing later on, and you have to switch all those tapes.
Oh, goodness.
At the same time to get the next shows recorded because all of them hit at
the half hour.
At the half hour mark. And then once you did all that and you made sure everything was running like it should be, then you had to go in and check the transmitter power and the ratings and all that. But I was basically getting paid to watch PBS television.
Well, that's cool though.
Which, in the if it was an afternoon shift, it would kind of suck because you're watching all the kids shows and all that. And I can't tell you how many afternoons I was forced to sit there and paid to watch Caillou.
Oh, well, that's...
Everybody at the station hated Caillou.
Nobody. If you're over 4 years old,
you
hate Caillou. I mean, that's...
And then if you were working a shift where you got there right after, you'd eat lunch, you'd go in, then you'd get the Bob Ross Joy of Painting. And you'd almost pass out.
Oh, because you're happy little trees.
You've already eaten lunch, so you're kind of full, and now you've got... All right, we're just going to put this happy little tree right here. Oh,
he has one of those voices that just, it's just so soothing and mellow. That's just like,
Now, the shift that I tried to work every time, I'd pick the shift shift up every time I could get it. And that was the Saturday night from like 7 until midnight when we would shut off the transmitter.
Okay.
And in that lineup, we had Legends of Jazz with Ramsey Lewis. We had Austin City Limits, which was another good one. Mm-hmm. And then we had an hour and a half of Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Oh, nice.
You know, so it was just, and we had a huge monitor speaker that you would use to monitor the audio, and there would be nobody else in the TV station. Radio station was upstairs, so you're not bothering them. So I could take that monitor and crank that thing up.
Nice.
And do an hour of Ramsey Lewis, Legends of Jazz, do an hour of Austin City Limits, and then Monty Python Flying Circus.
Mm-hmm. That sounds cool. I mean, that's
no. It was a great a great gig. It didn't pay a whole lot, because you were a student worker,
right?
But it was still a lot of fun.
What about your when you worked at the bookstore? I know you enjoyed that.
Yeah,
that job.
The bookstore was great.
When we first met, you were working there.
I was I was still working at the bookstore. And it was an independent bookstore. Mm-hmm. There was one at Rivergate. There was one at Cool Springs. It was Book
These
World.
are both malls here.
Both malls here in Middle
Nashville,
Tennessee.
Yeah.
And
in Middle Tennessee because Cool Springs is south of
it's down closer to Franklin.
Yeah.
But it was all hardwood.
Mm-hmm. I remember that store.
And for the folks that have no idea what I'm talking about, the whole store was hardwood. Mm-hmm. The shelves were hardwood. The floor was hardwood. It had little cubbies. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just rows and rows and rows of books. It was cubbies of books. So it was the cubbies were set up for different things. And the manager, she was German and she was really awesome. Mm-hmm. Really enjoyed working with her, but if there was a section that wasn't doing, what you thought it was doing, you could go to her and be like, "Hey, I want to be responsible for this section of books."
Right.
And she'd be like, "All right, you've got like a couple of months. Do what you want to with it. And if sales go up, keep doing it. And if sales don't, then we'll try somebody else at that position."
Okay.
And I picked up the music. The music section. And it had both informational and like the songbooks and the documentary or not documentaries, biographies and all that.
Right.
And so I would start going around to all the different bookstores in town and seeing what they were carrying in their selection and seeing what people were actually looking at, and built my 2 shelving units off of what I was seeing there. And I think I had sales go up.
Nice.
I really enjoyed that job. And
the thing I remember about Book World. It opened when I was in high school.
Yeah.
I was a junior in high school, I think, somewhere in there, sophomore, junior, somewhere in there. We were like, "Oh, there's a new bookstore. Let's go." Because we had like Walden was in the Walden book.
Walden's was okay. But it was all right, very corporate.
Yeah, but it was one of those things like, "Oh, let's go check out." Okay, let's go check out them. First thing we noticed was that the magazine section was fairly open.
Yeah.
As in, you could go over and pick up certain magazines that were like, "Oh, look, here's naked people," And I'm not even talking about like Playboys and stuff like that. I'm talking about like, "Oh wow, this is because you guys carried stuff that like Walden wouldn't carry, or whatever."
We carried heavy metal.
Or National Lampoon and different stuff like that.
And it was a very big magazine section for the time.
And so, of course, being teenage boys,
we
went in there, and I went to. It's funny. I went to church with this guy that was a private investigator. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say his name, but he's retired. But I'm just and he was a fairly large individual on top of it all. So I'm in there with my friends from school, and we're goofing off and we're looking at these magazines, like blah 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 blah. And I'm sitting there. I got this magazine open. I'm looking at it, and all of a sudden, there is right in front of my face a badge.
Yeah. I
mean, it's just like sitting there, and all of a sudden there's like somebody flips open a badge right in front of me, and I'm like, and I hear, "Mr. Smith, I'm gonna need you to come with me." And of course, I'm like, what? And I turn around and this is like, oh my God. It's like, what are you doing?
Now, I know when I was working there, a lot of that stuff had been moved behind the counter.
Yeah.
And you had to ask for it.
Well, the other thing I was going to say is that, again, being teenage boys, you figure out that, like, oh, the photography section has a lot of...
You were reading a lot of National Geographic,
No.
weren't you?
No. It was just like, no, these are photography books, you know? But yeah, there was, how to, but,
Yeah.
and you guys had some nice photography books in there.
I forget who took care of
I
that
don't
section.
know. But yeah, but that was a...
We also had a huge comic book
Yes,
section.
actually,
We had a
do remember that.
huge comic book selection. That's actually where I bought a Deadpool #1.
Oh, yeah. No, I do remember that you guys did have a really nice comic book section, because I wound up buying. So I hated to see that place go. I know you did.
I was working there when it went.
Yeah.
One of the sales I remember that we used to have is you could buy books by the pound.
Oh,
and
nice.
they would literally, over in the front right section, they always had the discount books and the sale books and all that. And they would come in, I think it was twice a year, and hang a scale. And you would put all these books in the scale, and then there was a list of, okay, if it's this many pounds, this is what you pay.
Nice.
And that was always a fun sale.
That's fun.
I know there was some other stuff that we did that I really miss.
And it was, and the whole, like, working in the mall was, you get into Christmas and, just holiday stuff in general. And it's just the people that come through.
Halloween was always fun.
Oh, yeah.
I usually ended up having to work Halloween in the mall.
And that was back when they would hand out candy and stuff.
You go out and stand out in front of the store and hand out candy, and people would come in. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we got to do an episode about malls sometime. Oh, hey, believe me, I guarantee you, between the two of us, we could do an hour without any problems.
The other thing I enjoyed is on break, I could run down to the food court, and there was a couple of different girls I was flirting with and getting somewhere with. Or I would run around the corner to Gloria Jean's.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where my coffee addiction started.
And that's Gloria Jean's is still there, which is cool.
Oh, yeah. But their coffee isn't as good as it used to be.
No, it's not. But
that was one of the first places around that you could actually get a cappuccino or an espresso.
Yep, it's true. Yeah, that's before Starbucks moved into everything.
Yeah, and ruined everything.
I like Starbucks, but I try to stay away from them because they're expensive and they're really high in sugar, and that's I'm just like, all right. Anyway, I worked in the mall for a short amount of time at a retail establishment. I'll say it. I worked at Hot Topic for
you worked at Hot
a few
Topic.
months. And that only like a few months.
It was out here at Hickory Hollow, wasn't it?
Well, I started off there. It was when they were opening the store over here at Rivergate.
Okay.
And so it's funny because that's almost 20 years ago. Like that place opened in April of 2000.
That's where I got all my bowling shirts from.
Yeah, that's at the time when that was the big thing, It was funny because when Hot Topic first broke nationally, it was really a goth store.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
And then at that time, they had moved into the pop punk whatever,
Yeah.
And so you had a lot of bowling shirts and,
Well,
and
they
that
weren't
kind of
just
stuff.
bowling shirts. They were Vegas style
Right.
bowling shirts.
And the not just the bowling shirts, but like the work shirts, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, they also had like the rave shirts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I can't believe I'm going to actually admit this.
Okay.
In one of the American Pie movies, the one where Stifler has to do the dance off.
American Wedding, yeah.
You know the black and green tribal shirt that he's wearing?
You had one?
I had one. I had that exact stinking shirt.
I know.
I had the exact shirt, and when it showed up on the movie, I sank down in my seat so low. I was like, "Oh, I cannot believe I'm Stifler."
I worked at Hot Topic for a few months.
Yeah.
My manager had come from another state and moved here to open the store. She'd been with the company for a while, and she had gone to their national. Every year they would do a big thing in LA. That's where they're headquartered out of, and they would have like big bands come and play, like kind of stuff like name bands and stuff. And this was the end of '99 when she went. I think it was in like November or December when they would do this, or maybe it was like right after the first of the year or something. I forget what it was.
Yeah.
And she had this lanyard that had like this picture of Madonna from like the 80s. You've seen it, black and white.
Yeah.
It's kind of close up of her face, type stuff.
Probably from the Vogue era.
No, it was prior to that. This is
Really?
this was like early Madonna stuff.
Okay. All right.
And I was asking her, she was like, oh yeah, they handed these out to everybody, and this blah 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 blah. And she told me that the owner came out on stage the last night and basically said, we're getting ready to go move into a new decade. The 80s are going to come back, and we're going to ride that as hard and as fast as we can for the next decade.
And now they're an overpriced
And that's what they
Spencers.
did. But that's what they did.
Yeah.
Everything that they did for the next, through the early 2000s was, hey, you remember how cool this was? Hey, you remember how cool this was? I mean, it just marketed that 80s over and over. And I guarantee you, when 2009 came around and they were like, hey, the 90s are getting ready to come back around and we're going to ride that. And they did, but they did become more of a Spencer's type place.
They're an overpriced, not as cool Spencer's with a lot of Funko Pop.
Right. Their big thing was, we want this place to feel like, they always name check this. We want this place to feel like Empire Records.
No, I never felt like
I know,
Empire Records.
but that's the whole thing, is that if you remember the movie Empire Records, the whole thing is that they're fighting being taken over by corporate overlords.
Yeah.
Okay. That is one of the most corporate political places I have ever worked in my life.
Well, you could tell when you walked in. Because if you didn't fit the template,
and I don't. I was like, I don't care. It's been 20 years. I don't care, because I never shied away from this whatsoever. I don't know what they do now, but at the time, they legitimately hired people by the way that they looked.
Yeah,
didn't matter how, and because of that, they wound up hiring a bunch of people who stole from them, and who let their friends steal from them, and I mean, just on and on. And I mean, just terrible workers just didn't show up to work, or this or that or whatever. It was all because they had a certain look that they wanted the place to look like.
And those folks were just looking for an employee discount.
Yeah, pretty much.
They could use for them and their friends. Whereas
5-finger discount a lot of times. I mean, that was a.
Whereas you were actually.
I came from retail,
you came from retail, and you had a knowledge of the culture that they were trying to sell anyway.
But the thing is I was just turned 26 when I went to work for them, and I was way too old to be working there. I mean, it was one of those things of like, I was the oldest person that worked in the store. Yeah. And I mean, I wasn't the manager. I was one of the assistant managers, but it was one of those things. Everybody else was under 20. I think my manager was 23. The other assistant was somewhere around that age. Yeah. And maybe even been younger than that. I don't know, 21, 22. But then everybody they hired were teenagers. That was just, and so it was one of those things where it was like, I felt I was just way fish out of water at this place, and it didn't last long. I had conflict with the district manager, and it was just kind of one of those things where, I mean, micromanaged to the nth degree of, I mean, it was terrible working there, and I mean, terrible, and one of the worst jobs I've ever had. And that's saying a lot, because I've had some bad jobs. I mean, like I was actually in car sales for 6 months or so.
Oh, I remember.
And that was miserable, but that was a different type of miserable. Yeah. That was a miserable of, I was working for Saturn. Yeah. And this was 4 years before Saturn went under. And we were already on a sinking ship, and everyone knew it. And it was it was a terrible work environment. I had a terrible boss that was still trying to do the whole, well, if you guys don't start selling cars, then I'm going to hire more people and make you hungry so you will sell cars. And it's like, we're not selling cars because stupid, you're not giving us anything to sell, and we don't have any customers, because I mean it was just,
well, that dealership was in a bad location too.
There was a lot of stuff with that one.
It was hard to get in and out of. It was down a hill off the road.
I know.
There was no visibility.
There wasn't, but it had been there forever. People knew it because it had been there since the beginning. But it was just a terrible work environment. I mean, everybody hated there. The salespeople hated working there. The people in the shop hated working there. The people who did the who did all of the like the what is it the service riders and
Yeah.
stuff. They all hated it. I mean, everybody hated that place, and I mean, all the managers hated it. I mean, it was just one of those things where everybody's just kind of like, how long are we going to stay? Are we going to stick around? Yeah, that's what it came down to.
Yeah.
You know.
You know what's funny is the college that I work for, when we went to open one of our campuses the first summer I was working there, we built it in an old Saturn dealership.
Because they're all out there. I mean, it's most of them have been taken over
Yeah,
by
other
something
place,
else.
yeah.
You know. But yeah,
Well, we literally
that place
have
was terrible.
we literally have one of our college campuses in an old Saturn dealership that we retooled to be a small
Now,
campus.
I know you worked for a paint store for a long time.
No, I worked for two different paint
Yeah.
stores. I worked for both Sherwin-Williams and Benjamin Moore.
Okay.
And luckily, I was not on commission because I would not sell a product that I would not. I'm the type that if I don't believe in the product, I'm
I'm not going
selling
to sell it exactly.
And people, and I'm going to tell them the right way to do it. This is the correct way to do it.
Right.
And if you don't do it this way, you're probably going to have problems. And and at the time, paint was such that you needed to do a coat of primer and you needed to do 2 coats of paint to get it to look right.
Right.
And people would be like, I'm just going to do a coat of paint. I was like, don't do it because you're going to be back in here. And instead of using 3 gallons, 1 primer, 2
Right,
coat,
right.
you're going to end up using 4 or 5 gallons of paint, to cover the wall and make it look right. And there is nothing like selling a product to people that already don't want to be there.
Right.
Who
Car sales. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, who in their right mind is looking forward to having to paint their house?
Nobody.
Nobody. And then you try to tell them the right way to do it, and they're like, well, I don't want to do it that way.
Right.
And then when they have to come back and look you in the face and know that you're looking at them, judging them because I'm now selling you 3 more gallons of paint because that 1
You
gallon.
didn't do it right the first time. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
And the boss was like, oh, no, sell them, sell them this.
Right.
We need to move this. We need to move that.
Right.
I'd literally look at my boss and be like, that product is a piece of garbage. I've used it myself. I know it's garbage. The reason it's not selling is because it's garbage, and I'm not going to lie and sell it.
Right.
And he would get so hacked off at me. Now, Sherwin-Williams, they've got a pretty good line of paint. They're, in my opinion, way overpriced for what it is. Unless you start getting into some of the contractor stuff. And even then, the last time I was in a Sherwin-Williams looking at paint, it was too much.
I know this from working for my dad. Doing that stuff.
Sherwin-Williams really, really thinks highly of their stuff.
And honestly, the contractor stuff doesn't cover well at all.
It used to.
It doesn't anymore.
Like the Promar 200 stuff used to cover really well.
It doesn't anymore. And I say that, I mean, it may be that whole primer thing to begin with.
I will
but
tell you right now that when they do their every quarter sales, the reason there's a sale is because we're having to go through and change all the price tags because they've raised the price of the paint.
Oh, fun.
And they would literally raise the price on the product like every quarter.
Okay.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I left there to go work for Benjamin Moore, and it was actually a company-owned store. Most Benjamin Moore stores, it's like an Ace Hardware or something like that. They're a dealership. This store was actually owned by the company. My district manager was actually in Seattle, Washington.
Oh, nice.
And it was when I got hired there. It was a guy that I had at my regular Tuesday night Star Wars tabletop role playing game.
Okay. Nerd.
It was no, I am. It was like a 2 or 3 year long D20 game. It was a lot of fun, but it was every Tuesday night. He always made sure to schedule me, so I got off early so I could be at the house in time for dinner.
Nice.
So it was me and him and another guy that was the manager, head sales guy, who was okay, but he was sales guy.
Right.
And then we had a gentleman there by the name of Mr. Mack, who had already retired. He had been a shoe dye maker for Genesco.
Okay.
If you get shoe polish now, that Genesco white,
right?
He actually invented that.
Oh, okay.
That was his Genesco white was his invention. He went from that to doing hand painting signs for like stores and stuff, the way they used to.
Right.
And when he came out of retirement, he started matching paint for Benjamin Moore. And he was 75 years old and had his corneas replaced in both eyes.
Oh, wow.
And the guy had a sharper vision than anybody I knew.
Probably.
And this guy he'd been doing color matching for so long, he could look at a color and go, put this and this and this in it, shake it up, and you should be within a tweak or two of it. Mm-hmm. And 9 times out of 10, he was either right on it, or you only had to put a drop or two of something else in it. I mean, just by looking at it. It was crazy. And then all of a sudden, the guy who hired me packed up and went back to Atlanta.
Okay.
And I forget what the reason was, but I think it was family or something. And then that manager left, and they hired a new manager.
Mm-hmm. Which is, yeah.
And
that's when it all started going to hell, didn't it?
that manager wasn't much older than me and was
Right.
lazy. He would just go back and sit in the office and leave everything up to me and Mr. Mack. That guy got fired, and they brought in a new manager, and he was different.
Okay.
And then one day I came in and somebody goes, and he was driving the company van, the delivery van, for his personal vehicle. Like he would drive it home and then drive it back to work. And then when he got ready to go home, be it at like 1 or 2 o'clock, he'd drive the company van home, and then I couldn't make deliveries, after a certain amount of time. This is the kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And of course, I've had to train both of them on what the job. I'm already handling all the paperwork.
Right.
I'm handling,
and it's always fun when you have to you have to train your boss, your future boss.
I'm already doing accounts payable. I'm doing accounts receivable. I'm actually handling the payroll and calling it into the district office, for all the payroll stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm handling all the, and then all of a sudden one of the contractors comes in and goes, "Hey, I saw your van up at the police department."
Okay.
At the police department? He goes, "Yeah, it was parked out front."
Okay.
It's like, okay. So I call up the police department. I go, "This is so-and-so with Benjamin Moore, and somebody said they saw our delivery van up there. Is there something going on?" He goes, "You should probably come up here and collect it."
Oh, no.
I was like,
oh, no.
Oh. So I go up to the police, and they're like, here's, he has been arrested. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get into why he was arrested.
He's arrested, okay.
So I collect the van. I go, "Well, he also had a company phone that was on him. Mm-hmm. We need that back." And they're like, "Well, you'll have to go up to the Sumner County Sheriff's Department to collect all that because all of his belongings were on him when he got transferred." Right. Great. So I go back to the store. I tell Mr. Mack what's going on, and I call a locksmith to start the process of changing the locks on all the doors of the building. And I drive up to the sheriff's department, identify myself. I work here. He has property that belongs to the building. I need that back.
Right.
And get the company phone and the keys and, all that.
Right.
I go back to the store just in time for the locksmith to be finishing up changing the locks. And I pay him out of petty cash from the till and go back to the office to call my district manager, and the phone rings and it's the district manager.
All right.
In a panic.
Okay.
"Hey, Mr. Mack told me that somebody from one of the news channels had called."
Oh, no.
And I knew that he was also on the board for Hendersonville City Parks.
Oh, man.
And so when they called again, I was like, "No, I can't comment."
Yeah, no comments whatsoever.
I can't comment on his status with the company, but I can tell you that he was also on the board at Hendersonville City Parks. Would you like to talk to them? Here's their phone number.
Oh, wow.
And they immediately hung up on me and forgot about us. I feel bad for Hendersonville City Parks because I sicked them. I sicked the news media on them to divert.
Right.
And then the district manager called. It's like, "Hey, I need you to do this." I was like, "Done. This is done. This is done. This is done. I've already fired him. He's gone." And he was like, "Wow, I guess we need to find you a new manager."
After everything you've done.
So after everything I've done and handled the press for you, you're not going to offer me the position
find a new manager. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like 3 months later, they made me responsible for actually closing up the store and shutting it down.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, they had me remodel the store first.
Right.
And then 3 months later, like I had to paint the entire inside of the store myself.
Wow.
After hours.
Right.
And then 3 months later, they
shut down the store.
They shut down the store,
Right.
and they made me responsible for
Right.
packing up the product and shipping it out and shutting down the store.
Right. You gotta love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Now
nice. How do you do? You know?
I will say this: the district manager did take care of me. He actually gave me way more severance than what would have been normal. He actually let me keep my insurance for longer than what would have been normal.
Yeah.
So
that still sucks.
yeah.
I have, man. I can look.
Now I will say this: if you're going to paint a room a really dark color, go to Benjamin Moore and get the dark color made in the best Benjamin Moore paint that you can have it made in.
Okay.
Because if you do a primer, you can almost get away if you get a primer and have them put a little black in it so it grays it up some. You can probably get away with 2, maybe 3 coats of that really dark color, because Benjamin Moore's best paint in the dark colors covers better than anything I've seen in my life.
I found out the hard way that dark colors,
they don't cover.
No, they don't.
But Benjamin Moore's
do
will.
not.
I'll tell you this: Benjamin Moore's will.
Okay.
The dark green that's around the fireplace at my house.
Right.
That was primer and 2 coats of Benjamin Moore.
Oh, okay, cool. I can look back on my job history.
Yeah.
And just the amount of companies that I've worked for that are no longer in business is staggering. And I'm not even joking about that.
Yeah.
I mean, some of it, maybe not the full company went out of business, but the stores that I worked at went out of business.
Yeah.
You know, that type of thing.
Well, that goes back to one of my other jobs. I worked for Acme Boot Outlet over in Goodlettsville.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Yeah. And, that was interesting because I actually had to buy Western wear to wear in there. Like I had to buy, I had the old cowboy shirts where it was just like, it was pull over and it had the 3 buttons.
Right.
And,
right.
And what was it? Wallmaker? I think they were Wallmaker shirts.
Yeah.
And honestly, they were some of the more comfortable shirts I've ever had in my life. And even to this day, I still wear cowboy boots, because if you get a good pair and you break them in.
Yeah.
But, we were selling... Acme Boot Outlet was actually where the stars would come over and go shopping.
Right.
Because they knew it was out of the way. They knew we weren't going to treat them like stars.
Right.
And, they didn't have
to have a whole lot of people
ask
for autographs and stuff. Yeah.
What was the female country music star that was also a lesbian that
Katie Lang.
Katie Lang came in the store one night and was looking. It was late. We were probably closing like a half an hour. And we were slow. She was the only one in there.
Yeah.
She came in and she was like looking around, and I was like, "Can we help you with anything?" She's like, "Nah, I got a new check and I'm thinking about getting some new boots." And I was like, "Yeah, okay. Well, if you need anything, Miss Lang, just let us know." And she was like, "Oh, you got me."
Yeah.
I was like, "Don't worry, we're not going to bother you.
It's good.
Just do what you got to do." Dan Seals came in there one night, and we didn't even recognize him. And he pulled out a handful of pocket, and he had a bunch of foreign coins. He had some Japanese stuff, and I recognized it. Like, my dad's got some of that.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, I do a little traveling for work." I was like, "Yeah, my dad has too." We were just sitting there talking. I was like, "So what do you do?" And we had a picture of Dan Seals hanging right by the counter, but he didn't look anything like himself. Yeah. And he goes, "Well, I kind of look like that rascal right there in that picture, don't I?" I was like, oh, you're Dan Seals. I was like, "Can I ask a favor?" I said, "I never do this. My father is a huge fan of yours." And he was. He loved Dan Seals. I was like, "Could I ask for your autograph for him?" And he goes, "What's your dad's name?" I said, "Larry." He goes, "Okay, what's your name?" David. He was making sure that I wasn't getting it. Right. And he was really super nice, really friendly, and did an autograph that I took home to Dad. And Dad... We were going through some of Dad's stuff, and I found he had it,
had it
tucked away in
nice.
some of his stuff. So,
that when I worked,
Well,
my last one I'm going to talk about here.
Webb Wilder came in there one night.
Oh, yeah.
And I had
Wow.
I had just seen him like the night before at the
Yeah.
show, and he came in. I was like, "Great show last night." And he was like, "Oh, you were there?"
Yeah.
And he immediately grabbed me and he was like, "Great, you're going to go shopping with me."
Oh, nice. Yeah, I worked for Movie Gallery for a year.
Oh, the video store.
Oh my goodness, where to even begin with this
Well,
one?
the creeper back room.
Well, yeah, we had an adult room. I have some great stories working in that place that deal with that adult room that I probably cannot tell on this.
You can't tell. Let's
Because
just
it's
say
one of
that
the-
every stereotype
I
is
mean,
exactly right.
and I'm not even like, I wouldn't even, there's nothing like dirty about the stories or anything. It's just the people dealing
oh
that you
yeah.
had to deal with that, was like, oh great, here we go, type stuff. And working in video rental, people are always trying to get out of late fees one way or another. And that back room, if I could have gotten rid of it, I would have, but they made a lot of money off of it and they weren't about to do it.
Yeah.
Working for Movie Gallery, I learned how not to run a company. I mean, it was a mess, okay? At the time, this was in 98, 99 when I worked there.
Yeah.
Blockbuster and Hollywood Video were 1A and 1B.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were the big dogs.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, it was neck and neck of who was in.
I had memberships at both.
I did too. Everybody else was a distant third.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody else. Movie Gallery wanted to think that they were third on that list, but they weren't, because there was Hastings, which was a lot of it was regional.
Yeah.
And Movie Gallery's business model was to go into some place and buy up all the mom and pop shops that they could, and then just turn them into movie galleries.
Gotcha.
They very rarely went in and opened a new store.
Yeah.
And that's what the one that I worked at had been owned, by a local, family, and it was bought out. And, that's the whole deal.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things that, even though it was Movie Gallery, it still retained the name, The Video Place, which is what it was called. And when you saw that with a lot of,
Yeah, because they didn't want to lose the loyalty of the locals.
Exactly. But you would go, and all of the branding on the inside the store was Movie Gallery.
Yep.
But on the outside, it still said whatever, that place was. That was the video place where I worked. And goodness, man. I saw them spend millions of dollars on promotions that never went anywhere, or were pulled after a couple of days, or just any number of things. And it was just kind of one of those, like, you think, okay, I'm going to go work for a video store, and it's going to be, it's going to be fun. I get to talk about movies, and people come in and ask my opinions.
You think
on
you're
stuff.
going to be doing Clerks.
And let me tell you, I lived Clerks every day.
Oh yeah.
In that place, of people would come in and say, I mean, there is that line in Clerks where it shows the guy's like, hey, do you have that movie with that guy that came out last year?
Yeah.
I would hear that legitimately sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Of,
That's
I
why it
need
made
more
it-
information than that.
That's why it made it in the movie,
I know,
because it's
I know,
it's
I
funny
know.
because it's true.
And sometimes it was fun. I mean, there really were some times I really enjoyed working there.
Yeah.
There were days that I would have rather taken a bullet to the head than walk into that store. I worked every major holiday.
Yeah.
I mean, every one. Christmas. I opened that damn store on Christmas Day at noon.
Yeah.
I mean, just it. I worked Christmas. I worked Thanksgiving. I worked New Year's. I worked Easter. 4th of July. I worked Labor Day. I mean, every Halloween.
Yeah, because they wouldn't shut it down.
I worked every single one of those stupid holidays. And then, of course, it was one of those things that we weren't paying anybody anything to work there. And so the turnover rate, so the turnover rate was terrible. And of course, you would hire a third key, and they would just not show up one day.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just
Now you're working an open to
and
close.
now all of a sudden I'm getting a phone call. Hey, I need you to, you need to come, because the suck thing about it is that the district and regional offices were downstairs of my store.
Oh.
So yeah, so it was one of those things that I had both of those, and so anytime that someone would come into town, like any of the VPs would come into town, they came straight through my store, and I mean straight through it.
That's
and
terrific.
it was oh my God, it was terrible. And
Nothing like being store number one.
Oh, it was horrible.
That's the thing about working at that Sherwin-Williams in Madison.
Yeah.
Because every year Sherwin-Williams had their nationwide convention out at the Opryland Hotel. And
So everybody came into town.
everybody came into town. And we were the
I
closest
know.
store to the
Yep,
convention.
you're right.
And they would, we would be closing up on a Friday night, and we would have a half dozen folks show up from the convention. Hey, we're trying to set up our booth, and we didn't get the product that we were promised, and we need to steal
blah,
it from
blah,
the store.
blah. Yeah, I
and so
know.
they would come in, we would lock the doors, and then we would load up a van full of whatever, and they would have to sign the paperwork that we took this product, and they would half empty us out.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it just, I remember.
there was one group that came through that was cooler than all the rest, because after they came through, they're like, hey, we appreciate your help. We know we kept you way over. We're going downtown to eat. If you'll recommend a place and then come down and meet us, we'll buy you dinner. And so I was like, okay, Market Street Pub, downtown on 2nd Avenue. It's down in the middle of everything. That's where I like going when I'm downtown.
Right.
And they were like, cool, meet us there at 8 o'clock. And we went in, and they didn't just buy dinner. They bought dinner.
No, nice. Yeah.
And then they were like wanting me to go out with them, later on. It's like, I can't.
I'm not a going out type person.
No, it was one of those
work
things.
the next day too. It's
No, I can't remember if I had to work the next day or not. But, at least they were cool enough to go,
Right.
hey, we messed you over. Let me buy you dinner.
Oh, that's cool. I have a couple. I know we're like really running long on this one, but I have a couple of stories about the video place, about working for Movie Gallery.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was working there when Titanic hit home video,
Oh, no.
and they used to send these tape loops for us to play in the store. Like, we weren't allowed to play anything. We couldn't play movies. We couldn't play. They would send. They were basically advertising.
Yeah.
They would be like 2 hours long or whatever. We would usually have two of them. You play one. When it ran out, you put the other one in, and you rewound the other one, and then whenever that would run out, you put that one in. That kind of. So I'll never forget this as long as I live. Titanic came to home video.
Yeah.
Because this is VHS. This is before DVD. Okay. Came to home video on September 1st, 1999.
Yeah.
No, 1998. Sorry, 1998. I'll never forget that as long as I live. Because starting in June,
Oh, no. Oh, no.
they started running ads for that on this thing. And there were two different ones, okay? There was one of them.
And all of them had Celine
It
Dion.
did.
Celine
Both of them
Dion
had.
near,
Yeah,
far.
exactly. So one of the tapes actually played that music video.
Yeah.
It was on there like twice. So I basically, in a 2-hour period, I would hear that.
Yeah.
But there was also another smaller ad for Titanic on there that ran multiple times on both ads, on both cassettes or video cassettes. That was basically the end of that video. Whenever she does when she gets the big, the big dramatic, you're here, there's nothing, the real big, If you remember that music video, she's doing that last, that little, and out the end of it, and it's showing Titanic sailing off into the sunset, that's, since 1998, anytime that I hear that song, when it comes to the end of that,
Immediate.
in my mind, I hear Titanic sailing to home video September 1st. Order yours today.
Oh.
I mean, I heard that so many times. And what sucked about it, it came out September 1st.
Yeah.
That ad was on the next 2 that came out as well.
Oh.
Because they were still trying to sell those. And we would do pre-orders for them. I mean, we sold a ton of those. Okay, that people forget how big of a movie that was. Okay, that was a huge. It was the biggest grossing movie of all time until Avatar came along, and then Avengers Endgame just recently, took that.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I know for inflation, it will always be Gone with the Wind, but
yeah,
it was still one of those things where it was like, okay, this was a huge thing,
I remember when that movie came out.
Oh, I do too. I mean, I did not want to see it. I did not, and I wound up going to see it, and I wound up seeing it a bunch of times in the theater because I actually fell into liking it quite a bit.
Yeah.
So.
We weren't going to see it, but I don't know if you Indian Lake Movie Theater,
oh, yeah.
which
the
is
old one.
which is no longer there.
It's a church now.
Which is funny because we had just moved to town and they were doing the ribbon cutting on it, and I was in the band and we had to go up and play for the ribbon cutting, and then we got free unlimited movies.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And then I remember when it shut down.
Yeah.
But they had the ramp that would go up where you would split off to go back to all the movies when they had a huge Titanic display right there. And on either side of it were the doors going into the main theater where Titanic was. And we were going back to our movie, and there was 3 or 4 of us, and that movie had just let out, and it was a bunch of this older folks coming out of the movie theater. And just when we went back, one of my buddies looks at another one and goes, the boat sinks at that movie.
Right.
and he goes, oh my gosh, why did you tell me? And just threw this huge fit like he had no idea the boat sank. And all these old people are looking at him like he's crazy.
Yeah,
It was great.
Well, but anyway, there's that. And then, if you remember going to video stores,
yeah,
they would usually have some kind of promotion of, they would have like a gumball machine up front or something, and like some of the gumballs would have like
clear plastic
tin
ball
foil on them or something, and like if you got one of those, then you get a free movie rental, and it's kind of those giveaways. So we had that gumball, with the and I would refill it from time to time, and we would select ones. Okay, we're going to put the tin foil on this and throw it in, and then people get it. You're just like, okay, well, bring it to me and I'll give you a voucher for. Don't just walk around with the tin foil because you could have brought that from anywhere. You know, bring it to me, I'll give you a voucher for whatever. Usually they would use it that day more than anything. You very rarely would see somebody like, oh, can I use this later? We even got to the point where we just put it on their account, where it's like, hey, they get a free rental, at some point. So in doing that, if you got one of those, whenever you redeemed it, you had to sign the receipt. Like they would print 2 receipts, and you would have to sign saying that you, and then we would staple that, the voucher or the tinfoil or whatever it was to that, and then we kept all that because this was pre everything digital age, and so we actually had paperwork, and we had this room back off to the side of the store that had like boxes and boxes of this paperwork, and they would say like August 1997 or whatever on the side, and that's where all that paperwork went into,
which you had to keep for 7 years.
Yeah, exactly, for IRS issue purposes. So one night I'm working, and I was the only one there, and then it was a Friday night. Friday nights starting about 4:00 in the 4:30, 5 o'clock. We'll get nuts because people were coming in. They're going to get something to watch for the weekend. Yeah, and Friday nights more than Saturday. I mean, Saturdays it would be busy, but Friday
you were
nights
loading up for the weekend.
You
were
absolutely,
getting 3 or 4.
Absolutely, because the thing is it was you would get on the new releases you could get 2 days. Yeah, but on the regular ones you get 5 days. Yeah, like on the the back catalog stuff. So this, I'll never forget this as long as I live. This couple comes in, and they come up, and they're and I'm talking like lines down the middle of the store. There's just me and Anthony was the other guy that he came in. It was just the 2 of us that are there. On this Friday, and matter of fact, I'm staying over because I was supposed to have left. But we were just so busy. It's like, I can't do that. You know, I'm not just going to take off.
Yeah.
Because there was someone else who was supposed to come in, but
Flaked on you.
no, she was there, but it was faster for me to get this down to a something, you know, but while she was putting videos out or, you know, helping people or whatever, you know. So I'm on one register, Anthony's on the other, and we're going through, you know, we're trying to get people through as fast as possible and everything. So this couple comes up, and so I pull up their account. You know, they hand me their card, I scan it, you know, whatever. I pull up their account, and they've got a late fee, which is something that happens all the time, and that stuff would stay on there until somebody paid it off, you know. And it was also one of those things is like, until you pay it, you can't rent anything. Yeah. And so I'm like, hey, you guys have a late fee on here, and they both kind of had a puzzled look on their face, you know, and the woman was doing most of the talking here. Yeah. And she's like, why would there be a late fee? Because we haven't rented here in a while, you know, and this kind of stuff. I'm like, well, you've got something on here. And she's like, well, what is it? And I was like, I can't tell you. She's like, what do you mean you can't tell me? I was like, well, I don't have a title. She's like, why don't you have a title? I was like, because when you rent I did this one, I'm going to say, but when you would rent an adult video, it would just say adult video. It wouldn't have the title in there, because a lot of times those titles were pretty vulgar, you know, type. So they would just say adult video, you know. And I was like, because it was an adult video. Of course, there's people here everywhere. And she's like, what do you mean? There's an adult video rented on this. I'm like, yes, ma'am, there was an adult video. And I told her, you know, what the date was, you know, and said it was returned late, and, you know, so there's a fee on here. She's like, well, that can't be, because, you know, we would never rent anything like that, you know, and just going on and on. And her husband's standing right there, and he's really like on this as well, you know, and even starting to like, and I'm like, but ma'am, I can't, you know, I can't take this. I mean, did someone rented this on your account? Yeah. Well, it wasn't me, and I know it wasn't my husband, you know, and this and that, and blah, blah. She's like, when was it rented again? And I told her the date, and she's like, see, I was out of town when that happened. I don't know how that could have gotten on there. Of course, in my head, I'm putting together, you were out of town, your husband was still in town, and he rented this thing on the account, is what it is, you know. And I'm looking at him, and really and truly, the whole time I'm looking at him, I'm like, kind of giving the dude, if you'll just give me the head shake or something, you know, to like, I'll help you out here. You know? But he had doubled down on, oh no, this isn't happening, you know. And I was just like, well, I was like, she was like, when, you know, who rented it? And I was like, well, it doesn't tell me who rents it here. She was like, well, how was it paid for? I was like, well, you know, actually it was paid for by one of our free, you know, our vouchers and the 10 things. She's like, well, I don't know, it must have been somebody else using my account. I want that taken off there, and, you know, because there's no, I wouldn't, blah, blah, blah. I was like, you know what? Give me just a second.
You went back and pulled the record.
I went back and pulled, and I did. I went back there, and I'm like, all right, I know it's in this box, you know, so I'm going through blah, 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 blah. Yep. Pull it out. It's got a signature on there and everything. And so I come walking back. I'm like, I'm sorry it took so long. She's like, well, I just don't understand this, because this is blah, 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 blah.
Well, here's who signed for your movie.
And I said, do you recognize this signature? And she looks at it and immediately gives her husband a death stare. Followed by a string of, I am so sorry, we'll pay for this, we'll get this taken care of. I mean, just... And I'm just like, dude, if he had just given me the, don't, you know, the what I could have, but it was when he had doubled down on this didn't happen. I don't know, you know, and that's the whole thing. She was out of town. Yeah. He came in to rent something and got that thing. Oh, well, hey, I can use this to get an adult video, and she'll never know. I have
your sins,
many stories.
Your sins always come back to find you.
I have so many stories of that ilk, of stuff that dealt with that room in those movies. Yeah. Of, you know, we had a policy that that whoever is the primary person on the account is the only one that could get information off of it. Right. So, like, if you're if at the top of the account it said Dave,
Yeah.
oh sorry, if it said Big Dave, I'll take that out. If at the top of the account it said Big Dave,
Yeah.
and then your wife's name is under there as the secondary,
Yeah.
it's you would be the only one that could get information off of it. She couldn't come in and get it.
Yeah.
Even though she's your wife, and all that kind of stuff. That's
Oh,
just
yeah.
the way it is. So I had multiple times of wives calling and wanting a full printout of what had been rented. And I'm like, what's the account number? And I pull it up. I'm like, you're not the primary person on this. I can't give you that. And then they would be like, well, I don't understand why not, because, I'm, who is the, and I tell them the name, like, well, that's my husband, and so I should be able to get this. Like, I'm sorry, ma'am, if you want to take it up with corporate, I'll give you the number.
Yeah.
But they're going to tell you the same thing, I mean, that kind of stuff. One time, I got that phone call. Now, it wasn't a phone call. A woman came in,
Okay.
handed me her card, and said, I want a complete report of what's been rented in the last month.
Yeah.
And her name was Primary. And I saw everything that was on there. And I was like, ma'am, are you sure you want this? She said, oh, I'm positive I want this. And so I ran the report and handed it off to her and said, good luck.
Oh, wow.
That kind of stuff happened all the time.
Somebody had a bad time that night.
Man, yeah. And I mean, it was just, I had this woman that worked for me she was in her mid 40s. She's around my parents' age at the time, and she was Bev. I loved Bev, man. She was great. She would make, she had a son who was a few years younger than me, and, but she would cook, and she would call me like, hey, I'm cooking, whatever, you need to bring some up there later. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Cause man, some of the best food I've ever had.
Nice.
All homegrown. I mean, she made these, it was turnip greens.
Oh.
And she would go and she wouldn't just go to the store, and she'd go to the farmer's market and get them and then boil them down, that kind of stuff.
Put a little bit of pork fat in there.
She put brown sugar in them.
Oh, that's different.
Some of the best tasting stuff I've ever had in my life. I was always like, I would ask her, I was like, are you making the turnip greens? Oh yeah, I'll bring this. Okay, yeah, let's.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I mean, she'd make homemade coleslaw, some of the best stuff I've ever had. I mean, just
I love coleslaw.
Anyway, but it was funny because she did not like the adult room, and I understand why. I mean, for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
But it was funny because she would always talk about, anytime I go back there, I open the door, and if there's somebody in there, they all have that look on their face like their mom just walked in on them or something,
Yeah.
So sometimes I'd be like, yeah, all that stuff's got to go, because we had a monitor underneath the
so you could watch
watch
room.
to make sure nobody's stealing, make sure nothing's happening back there,
Yeah.
because and that kind of stuff. And so a lot of times at the end of the evening, we would have to restock, what had come back in, and I would just let them kind of pile up until the end of the evening. And so I would
make her go back
I would
in?
usually try not to, but sometimes I would. And I would usually look to see if there was anybody back there.
Yeah.
And most of the time I'd make sure there was no one there, and then okay, Bev, we look at it, it's like, okay, there's nobody, you can go put those in, no big deal. Sometimes I would get a little
mischievous.
Yeah, it depends on how my day went, types thing.
Yeah.
And if there were several men in there, I would send Bev in just for the sheer joy of getting to sit back and watch that monitor and watch them scatter, because they would. It never failed. Very rarely would anybody stay in there when she would walk in.
Yeah.
It was one of those things. She'd come in and start putting stuff up, and people would leave. Just like
no, I can't have you know what kind of deviant I am.
Now, one time I was in a mood.
Here we go.
And I went in, and I walked in, and it wasn't like I walked in with the intent of making this person feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It just happened naturally, which made it even better. I walked in and I started putting them up, and this guy is nervous. I mean, he's like middle-aged guy, you know, kind of balding, glasses, you know. I can still see his face to this day, you know. You know, looked like he maybe had been off work for, you know, a couple hours or something, you know, and so I'm
I bet
like,
the wife was out of town.
Probably, I don't know. So I'm in there and I'm like blah blah blah, and this guy, like, it was funny because it was a little small little room, you know, that just, you know, 4 walls, and but there was also a shelf in the middle of the room, you know, that you could put, like, that's where our new releases were on, you know, like new stuff that we had gotten in, you know, would go there before it made it onto the back catalog walls, you know. So I walked in, and I didn't know that I had an audience until later.
Okay.
So I'm in, and we had, like, when you came into the room, if you went clockwise around the room, it was mainly hetero porn all the way around until you got all the way back around almost to the door. And then we had a smallish section of gay porn that was there.
Okay.
And so it was always funny to see people kind of make their way around the room, then all of a sudden get into that, and then be, like, freaked out, you know, like, as they're leaving, like, all of a sudden I got to walk past the, you know, and, like, so I'm putting up stuff, and this guy's, and he's, like, really acting nervous, you know, like, I'm like, hey, excuse me, you know, I'm trying to put something up, and he's just kind of, like, giving me the what, you know, type thing, you know. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have so much fun with this dude, you know. So it was like he walked to the corner, you know, like away from, like, all the way down the wall.
Yeah.
And of course I'm making my way down there, so I'm putting up more of it, you know, and every time I get close to him, he'd take 2 or 3 steps, you know. And so he was coming around, and, like, he's coming around to the gay section.
Okay.
So I did something spur of the moment that if I had planned it out, I couldn't have planned it out any better. I just went back around the other way to where, to get to the door, he basically had to come through me.
Yeah.
Type thing. And I had some of that porn that had to go up, you know. And so he's kind of like, I can see him kind of like doing this. I really want to go past, but I don't want to. I don't, because he's just so nervous, like, being in the thing, you know. So I'm putting this stuff up, and I'm like, okay. And I grabbed one of the because what we do, like most video places, where we would take the carton that it came in and shrink wrap it, and it would sit there, and then, like, the actual videotape would be in a plastic container behind it. Yeah. So that's how you knew if it was there or not, you know. So I grabbed the carton that had been shrink wrapped, and I'm like, hey, man. And he's like, hey, you know, just kind of like, really. I was like, it's like, you ever watch any of this stuff?
Oh no.
And he looked at it, he's like, no. I'm like, no, it's fine. Like, hey, I was like, I'm straight, it's cool. But I'm just saying that if you ever are into this stuff, this is actually really good, even for a straight guy. Like, this is, like, really good stuff to watch. Like, you would be amazed some of the stuff they do in here.
Oh no!
Oh my God, he legit.
Oh,
I'm not joking, Dave. If you're looking at, like I said, you know, you go back around, like, the clockwise, ran counterclockwise around that room
to get out
the door, even though all he had to do was go, like, 2 feet past me.
I think I would have run from you. I may run from you now.
So I'm dying. I mean, I'm dying laughing. I come walking out, and I get back up to the front, and Bev's sitting there, and she's like, "What did you do to that guy?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "He just, like, bolted out of here, like, straight through. Didn't what?" And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." She's like, "Don't give me that. I was watching you on the monitor. What did you do?" Of course, I'm just, like, almost doubled over laughing at this whole situation. And
I bet that guy never went back in there
I never
again.
saw him again. I don't.
You may have saved him from a life of addiction.
But it was just that sometimes like I said, I would be in a mood and something like that would happen. And I have another story that I would tell, but I would have to get a little blue on it because
just leave it alone.
But it dealt with calling about late videos and an answering machine that
oh no, and reading off the titles.
We were not supposed to do that on adult titles. We were just supposed to say adult titles.
Yeah.
But when their answering machine picked up, it was playing gospel music and she was quoting scripture on it. And so I was particularly hungover that day and in a grumpy mood. And so I just blurted all of them out on the answering machine.
Wow. Somebody had to go down front that Sunday. They should have been going down front that Sunday anyway.
So, yeah, that was, yeah. I miss work at the video place sometimes. Here's the nice capper on that. Movie Gallery, who was always a distant third.
Yeah.
In the pack somewhere, distant third, in 2006, wound up buying Hollywood Video.
Oh, that's why they went under.
Hollywood Video was filed for bankruptcy because they were more than $50 million in debt. No, they were over $100 million in debt. Movie Gallery was like, we get to be number 1A or 1B now, and went and bought them, but assumed all of that debt in the process of the way that the court filing was.
Yeah.
And they were out of business within 2 years.
Yeah.
All of them.
Which really
Hollywood
made me
Video
sad
was
because
gone. Movie galleries were all gone.
Hollywood
Everything.
Video was my go-to. Blockbuster came out first.
Right.
And
Hollywood was
they got a little run down, and then Hollywood showed
Right,
up. And
right.
dude, we were always in Hollywood.
But that was the capper on
yeah.
I left that store. I left there and went to another really bad job where I was working in the mall out at Bellevue Center when that was still there.
Yeah.
Working in a shoe store, and it was terrible. As a matter of fact, that company wound up
Oh,
out
so
of business eventually.
we've both done the Al Bundy thing.
And that's another company I worked for that was out of business within a couple of years.
What was the name of it? Do you remember?
Tracking Trail. There was them and several other that were like all under one umbrella, and that entire company went out of business a few years after that. And then then I went on to CD Warehouse after that. So it was kind of fun that within a year I worked in a video store and a record store. So
Nice.
it was but
See, the PBS station is really kind of the only cool job I've had. That was fun. All the rest of them were kind of boring.
yeah. Well, I mean, I did catering. I worked in multiple restaurants.
I sold cowboy boots and cowboy hats. I had my butt grabbed by an old woman.
Oh, there you go.
At one point, working at the
Maybe one day I'll tell some
Uh-uh.
Lyft stories. Driving for them.
Oh, no, in part of that Acme Boot Outlet, we had a huge hat selection, and the hats would go all the way to the ceiling, and the only way to get to some of them was to get on a step stool and then use this pole to actually get the hat down. And this little old lady came in with her husband and all that, and they were looking at hats, and I was helping them, and at one point she goes, "What about that hat way
at the
up
very
there?"
top, of course.
And I was like, "Yeah, okay, hang on."
Yeah.
And I get up on the step stool, and I'm stretched out, and I'm getting the pole up underneath the hat. And next thing I know, she has double-handed grabbed my butt, and she was like, "That's firm." And her husband went, "What?" And she was like, "Nothing." I was like, I was violated.
Yeah. So good times. Well, we are just almost at 2 hours now.
There's going to be some editing.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be some. But we're definitely gonna try to get this down But
you got at least one naughty word.
Well, but it's man. It's funny because I look back on a lot of the jobs that I've had over the years, and some of them I really enjoyed. Some of them I look back on and I'm just like, oh God, this place was terrible. Like, that was like one of the lowest points in my life was working. Saturn comes to mind, and Hot Topic both. But it's still one of those things where I have so many great memories, especially associated with CD Warehouse.
Yeah.
And this is 20 years later.
Oh,
and
I've got great memories of CD Warehouse, just standing in there for hours.
Oh, I know. And that was the other thing is that, and I never even talked about Hobbytown. That was a lot of fun. The year that I worked there was
I think
great.
I still have all of those Crow.
Yeah, probably. Oh yeah, the card game.
The Crow. Yeah.
And but yeah, I mean that was I knew the guy that owned the place, and that's how I wound up getting that job, and that was a lot of fun. It got me through college, you know, and but yeah, I mean it just I would not go back to retail for anything now. No. I say that, but then again, I would, depending on where. No, record store, I would probably do something like that, or like someplace.
If I did a record store, it would have to be an independent. I would
right.
Have
oh
to,
yeah, yeah. No, not a corporate by any
I would
stretch,
have to either be owner or primary manager or something like that.
No, I would never do management in retail ever again. I've done it multiple times, and every time I do it, I remember within a couple of months why it was that I said I would never do it again.
Oh, so, gotcha.
Yeah. Oh, I hate managing a retail anything is just hell.
It's terrible. I don't like doing retail and dealing with the general public in retail because for some reason people think they can treat you.
Oh, I know.
Really poorly.
I know.
Because you work in the store.
I know. And they act like
And I try really hard not to be that person.
Oh, I know.
Unless you're just,
dude. I am so conditioned from the years of working in retail.
Yeah.
That I'll go in places that I have never worked, and start straightening.
I've done that.
I'll find myself, well, this is supposed to be over here, and this is supposed to be over here, blah blah blah, blah, and then I'm like, why am I doing this?
The only time I haven't done that, the only time I've been a jerk as a customer, is either like in Walmart or Hobby Lobby or somewhere where they've got the big giant letters,
right,
and they're hanging by alphabetized, and I'll do something like I'll rearrange them to say "help me" or
right,
something like that.
Yeah, I mean that's I just even now when I go back to CD Warehouse, even though they don't have anywhere near, like they still carry some CDs, but nothing like they used to. I'll still, if I'm going through looking at stuff and it's out of order, I'll start putting it where it's supposed to go. And I've done that for 20 years,
you feel like you've got a piece of ownership in the place, because you worked there for so long.
I know. And I did love
Is it
working
still
there.
The same guy that owns the
Still
place?
the same guy owns it. Oh, and that was one of the things that when I worked there, business was so good that there were 6 locations.
Yeah.
And now there's just the one. Like all the rest of them are gone.
I was talking about the one out at Bellevue.
Yeah, that one's been gone for a while too.
I really.
But yeah, there were 6 locations at one point,
and that was a bigger store than what Rivergate.
It was.
It was a great store.
And that one at Rivergate's the only one that's still there, and it's funny because that store's been there 25 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it opened in '94. I remember that, and it was.
Well, we had a connection even before you were working there because they were one of the sponsors of
WVCP. I know.
When we were working at the college station.
It's true, and because we could go down there and get music.
Yeah.
And when I worked there, Mrs. E, would come in and like every week, like, hey, I'm looking for this, and like, okay, and I would find them for them. It's like, here you go, and to do the paper, sign the paperwork on it and everything. Like, all right, so.
I could still almost remember the promo we had to do for CD Warehouse.
Because it ran, it was the same promo that ran forever. CD Warehouse. CD
Warehouse, probably sponsor of WVCP 88.5, Pioneer Radio.
That's right. And I mean, that it's funny, especially we've talked about, I can't believe we're over 2 hours on this. We've talked about, living in this area for so long.
Yeah.
And, so you do put down deep roots, even with retail stores.
Yeah.
And, like I said, going back to a lot of places that I worked that aren't there anymore. Like my very first job when I was in college that wasn't working for my dad, I worked at El Chico's when they opened that store.
Oh, yeah.
The one that was outside when they moved from the mall to outside.
Yeah.
I helped open that store.
In the parking lot of Toys R Us.
Well, it's gone now.
Yeah.
As well as Toys R Us.
Toys R Us, yeah.
So that one's gone. I worked for Hobbytown.
Yeah.
Okay. And Hobbytown's still around, but Dwayne closed that store years ago. He did something else. Like he did well He didn't close it because he had to. He did it because he just decided, okay, I'm done with this.
And decided to do something
So that
else.
store is not there any longer. Now, again, Hobby Town's still around, but that particular store is gone. The video place is gone. All the movie gallery is gone now.
Yep.
Track and Trail's gone. CD Warehouse is still hanging on, which is cool.
Yeah.
But Saturn's gone.
Yeah, Saturn's gone. That other car lot.
That other car lot's gone. Let's see what else. I worked for a. We built playgrounds.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
they're not in business any longer. That was a family run thing, but they
you must
shut
be
down.
a Jinx or something.
Well, I'm trying to think who else. I mean, but it is. It's one of those things where you just kind of start going through the line of like, oh, I worked here. Well, that place is there any longer. Well, that place isn't there any longer. So whenever some place like CD Warehouse is still there, that's pretty cool. Of like, no, I worked here years ago. So
that McDonald's in Illinois, where I had my first job, that's still there. The Tool and Die place is still there. Acme Boot Outlet is no longer there.
It's not. Is it something?
They broke it. They actually broke that store up into two storefronts. Okay. So it's two different stores now.
So that tells you how much I paid attention.
I actually went from Acme Boot Outlet to T.O. Pride in the mall, which was the high-end Western wear place.
Right.
And so I worked at two different places in Rivergate.
Right. That reminds me because I worked at Profits. Whenever they bought out, when they bought out Castronauts, I worked there, and they're not there any longer. They're not allowed any longer.
My wife
now
actually worked at that Castronauts.
Oh yeah.
Was it Rivergate or was it out? It may have been at Bellevue. Mm-hmm. But my wife worked for Castronauts for years.
Wow.
So.
But yeah, I worked for Profits for a holiday season. And they're not, like I said, they were bought out. I think Macy's bought them out. No, they were bought out by somebody else, and then Macy's bought out that place.
Hex,
yes. Thank you. That's what it was.
I went in there. They had some kind of special sale. You had to have a ticket to get in. And they had just opened. And I went in, and I walked in. I was like, okay, so where's your big and tall department? Because at the time I was 6'2", and probably around 250, 275. And the woman behind the counter said, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. We don't cater to people of your stature." And that was the last time I've set foot in Hex.
Well, Hex isn't. They're not there any longer. I mean, that's So they were bought out by Macy's.
And that made me a Dillard's man. I was exclusively going to Dillard's big and tall shop at that point.
I know there was other places I worked that's not there any longer. But yeah.
Well, there's a lot of places around this area that aren't, like Calhoun's. I miss Calhoun's.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, we could go on and on and on about that. But some place I worked that I really did enjoy working that we didn't talk about.
Where was that?
Party City.
I didn't realize you'd worked at Party City.
I worked at Party City for a year and a half, and went through two Halloweens.
Oh wow!
No. Because that was a situation where you basically, and I understand why they did it, but you dedicated your October to them.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't do anything but work through October, especially if you were in management.
Yeah.
And it was just like, no, I'm good with that because I like Halloween way too much to
give it up.
Yeah, and give up the entire month of October.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I mean, that was a cool place to work. I really enjoyed it. It was pretty laid back, and the guy that owns the place is pretty cool and everything. It's family run. Cool. It's a franchise thing. He owns a couple of stores. I worked at both of them, so that was fun. I mean, the biggest thing with that place was we did wedding invitations.
Oh.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many arguments I had to officiate between mothers and daughters,
or mothers and daughter-in-laws,
or
mother-in-laws.
Yeah, it was usually mothers and daughters.
Bridezilla.
Yeah, and it was just, I'm gonna let you guys talk about this for a few minutes. I'll be back when you just let me know when you're ready, type stuff. Halloween was fun,
Oh yeah, because you get to play with all the toys.
And exactly. And
I'm surprised you didn't stock up on Halloween decor.
I did at the time. This was a long time ago. The biggest association I have with that place was And I can still, the one over here in Rivergate, I can still show you the exact place I stood for 2 hours and listened to the radio when 9/11 happened. You know, that
I was working at Sherwin-Williams when that happened.
Yeah, and I mean, that was, oh, wow, what's going on? Because we didn't have a TV, you know, or anything.
Yeah.
And we had a radio, and we turned on the radio, and we were getting, like, the CBS News, you know, coming through on 99.7. And it was just like, what are we listening to?
Yeah.
This, you know. So
I was actually getting ready to work,
Mm-hmm.
getting ready for work, and when I was listening to Rick and Bubba.
yeah, and they broke in
at the time. No, they were on the air.
They were live, yeah,
talking, and they're like, "Oh, hey, a plane," because they had
Oh,
just been to New York and had been broadcasting from the top of one of those buildings.
Oh wow, okay.
And they were like, "Oh, hey, you know, look at the TV. A plane hit, you know, one of the towers."
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about it must have been a small plane because it doesn't look like.
That's what everybody thought at first.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then I remember them going, them talking. No, this is something bigger. Look at the size of that hole. And they're like, we shouldn't do this. Everybody, go turn your TV on right now and take a look at this. And I went back to my bedroom and turned on the TV, and the picture came up just in time to watch the second plane hit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, but yeah, that's like I said, that's my Party City. That is one of my big, probably my biggest memory with that. Is like, no, this is where it happened.
And I had to drive through Rivergate to get to the Sherwin-Williams, and it was like
dead.
There
was nothing going on that day.
It was like 9 a.m. or something, and driving through Rivergate was weird because it had the same amount of traffic that we had have like at midnight.
I know,
or 1 o'clock.
I know.
In the morning.
Like I said, I stood there, and it wasn't.
The mall was closed. They closed down the mall.
I know. It wasn't until after it was almost noon when we had our first customer that day.
Yeah.
And the lady came in and was asking if we had any American flags.
Yeah.
Which we had just put up all of our, 4th of July stuff. Like, we kept it out throughout the entire summer.
Yeah.
And we had just gotten rid of all of our summer decor, you know, like this, but we didn't have any anyway. I mean, we were completely out of them.
Yeah.
Needless to say, within, you know, a week we had plenty, and people were still buying them, you know, and that kind of stuff. But it was just kind of one of those, oh crap, no, we don't, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's. I'm trying to think where else. I don't have any. I mean, when I was working for the caterer, when I do the catering, that was fun. But that's a whole story in and of itself like how much you can run yourself down doing a job.
Oh yeah,
because
and doing food service. Doing food service is a hard job, and those folks don't get paid garbage.
Not nearly enough. I mean, of course, when I was doing the catering, you know, we were getting paid pretty well because it wasn't tip based or anything. But working in a restaurant,
yeah.
Oh man, I can't tell you how many nights we get finished working and just go straight to the bar.
Yeah,
just set it up. I mean, it was rough.
Well,
man.
I mean, you can always tell when it was getting close to the end of the night because employees were not allowed, and not that I did this, but employees were not allowed to drink where they were working.
Right.
So there would be a huge employee shift amongst all the restaurants. Like Logan's would go to Calhoun's. Calhoun's would go to Chili's. Chili's would go to Longhorn.
Well, see, I worked at Logan's, and at the time, we could drink there.
Yeah.
But we couldn't have our shirts on, like our work shirt.
Yeah.
And so basically what it was is you either took it off and put on a different shirt, or a lot of times what we do is like I had a pullover that I would come into work because I was working during the wintertime, and I just put that on so you couldn't see it. And so it was, but you couldn't sit at the bar itself. You could sit up in the bar area, you know, like one of the tables or something. And there would be one table that was just employees that had just gotten off work who were just pounding alcohol.
But there was like a certain time. It was usually around like 9 o'clock or so.
But no, it's true because we used to get because Olive Garden was right next door to us.
Yeah,
they would come over to, like, as soon as they would get off work, they came over and were sitting in the bar. Yeah, so.
And like even when Chi-Chi's was still down there.
I miss Chi-Chi's. I used to love that place.
They had the best chips.
They did.
But about like 8:30 or 9 o'clock, you would see like 5 or 6 cars from one restaurant literally drive to another restaurant, and there would be like 10 people pouring out these, and they would all
Rio Bravo was another one that was over there. That was another. I miss them. So Yeah. Anyway, I know. Yeah, we
I
just
guess
keep
that's
going
it.
on and on
Yeah,
about.
we better
we're-
shut this
we're
thing
kinda-
down.
But yeah, no, this is it's always fun to look back on the jobs that we had when we were young, especially.
Yeah.
Because, man, I made such crap money at most of those places.
Dude, at Sherwin-Williams, I was making bank
Really?
because I was working so much overtime. There were days, because Nashville was still in a boom back then.
Oh yeah.
There were days that I would show up in the morning and they would already have the van loaded for me. I would hop in the van and I would go make deliveries. I would stop somewhere, pick up lunch, go inside, eat lunch while they reloaded the van, and then I would go out and make deliveries. And it got to be to where I was out so late, they had to make me a third key.
Wow.
So that I could go in the store, get my stuff, and then lock it up and go home.
I'm looking at this right here. Okay.
Yeah.
In 1999, okay,
Ooh, here we go.
I was managing Video Place. My salary, what do you think my salary was?
Manager of a video place in 99 was probably somewhere around 23 grand a year.
I was making $19,500
Wow.
a year. But there were also bonuses, quarterly bonuses.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things you say that, like, right now in 2019 money,
Yeah.
that's $30,000, which sounds like a lot, but it's not.
No.
I mean, it's still like below the poverty level.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about that is, like, because I'm sitting here looking at this, it's like the cumulative rate of inflation is 54%.
Yeah.
Now, what's fun is that my first job in 1993, okay, not counting the working in the restaurant, like the next one I worked, I was making minimum wage. Which, do you remember what it was in 1993?
I don't in 1993, but I do remember what it was when I started that job at McDonald's.
Okay.
Like I think it was my sophomore year in high school, and it was $3.23 an hour.
It was $4.25 an hour.
I remember when it went to $4.25 an hour.
It was $4.25 an hour. In modern, in 2019 money,
Yeah.
that's $7.56 an hour.
Wow.
And yeah, what's minimum wage these days? Is it $7.50, something like that?
Somewhere
in there.
Know.
So yeah, I mean, but it's still one of those things where it's like $7, you have $7.50 an hour, It's like,
but was it $3.70? I think it was $3.73 an hour. I was making. I remember when it bumped to $4.25, and I was like, dude,
I know,
I got a raise.
But that was, like my paychecks would be like, for a 2-week paycheck would be like $300 or something,
But when I was working for Sherwin-Williams, I was making overtime hand over fist, and then winter would hit, and you'd get knocked back, then
to nothing,
to like 15 hours a week.
Right.
You're like, where'd all my money go?
Yeah, I know.
I know where the money went.
So anyways, if you guys want to tell us how stupid this episode was, or if you're still angry about our previous episode about overrated everything.
Hey, I'm just glad you guys are still listening,
still
downloading. Hey, please tell your friends. Please tell your friends about us.
Since we're in 2020 now, hey, tell somebody. Say, hey, go check out this podcast,
Yeah.
Just, we haven't really done a whole lot to try to grow our audience. I can't talk all of a sudden.
Yeah,
and it's word of mouth helps quite a bit. Go to wherever, like if it's Apple Podcasts or wherever it is.
If it is Apple Podcasts, do us a favor.
Give us a review.
Give us a rating. Give us a review. It's going to help actually raise it.
It actually boosts us up in visibility on that kind of stuff, to where we might find some more people, some bigger audience.
So if you enjoy it, please share.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to get in touch with us.
All right, hey guys, we want to thank you for listening and supporting us all this time. Just wanted to let you know we can be found on Apple Podcast at Project X Pod. We're also on Google Play. We're on Stitcher. We're on Tuned In Radio, and hopefully we're going to be getting on some other platforms also. You can also get a hold of us by email at projectxpod@gmail.com. I've also got my own private one at bigdavexpod@gmail.com. We're on Twitter at Project XPod, and there's also at Big Dave XPod. We're on Facebook at Project X Podcast, and we're on YouTube. We're starting to do some stuff on YouTube at Project X Podcast. So if you like us, please spread the word. Let your friends know. If you can't stand us, tell all your enemies. You can torture them that way. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it.
All right, that's enough. Let's get on with the show.
So anyway, thank you once again for listening to us here at the Project X Podcast. I am Alan Smith, along with...
I am Big Dave.
And we will see you next time.
See ya.